Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 37 through 39. There we go, right there. And this is Jesus talking. And Jesus, 37, sorry. And Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. 38. This is the first and great commandment. 39. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And I'm going to repeat those. 37. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. 38. This is the first and great commandment. 39. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Jesus is saying, clearly by when he's saying the first and great commandment, that this is the first commandment of Christ. Love God with all your heart, and all your strength, all your mind, all your soul. How powerful is your love if you truly use all of your heart and your strength? More powerful than can even be imagined. If you love the Lord with all your heart and soul, the second commandment just comes naturally. In fact, all commandments just come naturally when you love God and when you love yourself. In fact, a lot of people have a lot of problems with what they call, religion, or trying to be a Christian, or trying to be a Christ follower. Because they just look at it from this one point of mindset. Oh my gosh, I have to do this, and I can't do this, and I can't do this, and no. And it just, to them, it just seems overwhelming. They start looking at it in the wrong mindset, like, there's no way I can be able to do that. Well, if I don't do that, then I'm going to be living in sin, and God's not ever going to like me. I'm going to be constantly sinning, and I won't be able to handle it. It's just too much pressure. I can't do it, and I'm not going to be able to obey all these things, so why even bother? Well, I tell you why. Because actually, when you get into it, and you start just loving Jesus, and your love just starts overpouring, you don't see it as rules. In fact, everything just comes naturally to it. You no longer want to act those ways. You no longer want to do these things. It's no longer now this mindset of, I can't do this. It's a mindset of, I don't want to do that. It doesn't even bother to cross your mind. Like when, for example, if you have certain foods that you just don't like to eat, you don't look at it as like, I can't eat that and I can't eat that. You look at it as, no thank you. That is a no-go for me. It just is, it disgusts me. It's not something you're being limited from. It's something that you don't even want to bother to even think about no longer doing. So when you get into it and you go further into your journey with Christ, and your heart becomes overflowing with love, because He just has this overflowing pouring of abundantly love that just comes out to you. The more you get into your relationship with Him, the more you get closer to Him, you can see how daily He just pours out this never-ending love that you're just being constantly blessed with. His grace, His mercy, His love. It's unconditional. It's unbannable. Just how much He He just pours out to you. When you're in a relationship with somebody, there's just certain things that doesn't even bother you, that you don't no longer do no more, because of love. There's players out there that used to sleep with all kinds of people, and it didn't bother them to do so towards one another. But then when they met this one person that just makes them feel this kind of way that they never felt before, that they never received before from somebody else. Those thoughts and those actions no longer contain them, no longer bother them. Doesn't even cross their mind. They just do it naturally and they don't even know why. For most men, they didn't even realize that they started acting that way until maybe somebody pointed it out. Man, you don't even holler at honeys no more. They had to think about it. Well, why don't I? It just came naturally. You didn't have to sit down and think about, well, I'm no longer going to do this because I like this. It just came natural to you. Same thing with God's relationship with us. Everything of those so-called rules and commandments, it all becomes natural. We don't even see the list of it. When they talk about all the laws and commandments, there's like over 600 of them. Especially if you go into Mosaic law, it was all that Moses had passed down. That you cannot do this and you cannot do that. And this and this and that and this and this and that. You got to remember back in that time, God put those rules out and commandments to see if they would even obey. It's not like they had a lot to do. But they would spend all their time disobeying. So most of those laws were being kept for them just to obey. And a lot of people think that just because Jesus came that we have to ignore all those laws. There's a lot of those laws do not hold factor today, just like as Paul is saying in some of those letters when it came to eating certain food. The Gentiles wasn't held up to that law. That God sent him to be a representative for the Gentiles, to get them to understand that you can still have Christ in your heart and not have to sit there and choose, oh, we don't eat this kind of meat and we don't have to do that. And he even explained it again for Peter to understand, so that when Paul would come through and explain his whole theory of what he was told and led by God to get these Gentiles to go, he had the same thing come to Peter. He sent Peter to the Gentiles' house, and he said, and to eat that food. So that when Paul made that statement, Peter can also be on his side, but you know what? God did the same thing to me, because he said, what I have made clean is not unclean. He had Peter go through the same thing so he can back up Paul when they was in discussion with the other disciples of what was going to be, what the Gentiles had to do when it came to certain laws, because they wasn't held up to the same laws as the Israelites were. And so you got a lot of people today still arguing the same thing, that if you're going to be a Christ follower and you're going to follow him, then you have to do the same thing as this and the same thing as that. That's what Paul is referring to when they're sitting talking about being uncircumcised. Not every single topic when he was saying uncircumcised wasn't meaning actually being circumcised. A lot of term when it comes to the word circumcised in there and uncircumcised was meaning the Gentiles and the Israelites. It was referring to actual circumcision in some cases when he was talking about that. It's also talking about the clothing and apparel. Some people in different parts and different areas, their culture was a little bit different. So he's saying that you can still believe and have God in your heart and follow Christ, and I had to put on the Jewish apparel. And you know that the Bible is an example from beginning to end for all generations. And I guess the reason why it was more important to get that into, because we knew that times was going to change. So was the dressing apparel was going to change. That people wouldn't have to feel left out that if they didn't dress a certain way. And so religions do that. Oh, you can't wear that, and you can't wear this, and you can't wear that, and women shouldn't wear pants. And we're talking about they should not dress up as men, should not be portraying themselves as women, and women should be portraying themselves as men.